Well, welcome back, everybody, to Two Pastors and a Mic. My name is Shannick.
And I'm Corey.
And we're so thankful that you're joining us wherever you're listening from. We appreciate you. Those of you watching us on YouTube, we appreciate you as well.
We do.
We are in Thanksgiving week. We are almost at 50,000 downloads. So I would love to make a push today.
Yeah, do it.
While you're listening to this. Or tomorrow, Thanksgiving. You don't have anything going on except cleaning and cooking and then waiting for family to show up. Why don't you just hit play on that podcast and give us a listen and then share this episode with maybe your family that is showing up to Thanksgiving dinner. That would be amazing as well. So we appreciate you. Also, if you would like or subscribe to us wherever you listen to this podcast on whatever platform, and those of you watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and share that as well.
And hopefully you've loved my book so far. If you haven't bought it, what are you doing? Go buy it. Go support your boy. And listen to our Hill City worship team. They got great songs. It's almost the Christmas season, so you're going to love the Christmas songs. I think there's 6 out there, 6 Christmas songs, which are my favorite is Drummer Boy, Holla at Derek. But I love all of it. It is Thanksgiving week. It is one of my favorite weeks of the year, to be honest. Not just because it's a shortened week, but man, I'm a Detroit boy, so I love Thanksgiving football. I love playing Thanksgiving football, which I will be doing in the morning, having great food, watching the Lions. And this is the first year that there's great anticipation for a Lions W on Thanksgiving Day. Now, we have one on Thanksgiving before. It's very rare, but we're pumping it, man. I'm loving my Lions right now. There's been a lot of excitement. So
yeah, I love Thanksgiving as well. And it's what we talked about a little bit last week on the podcast, that a lot of people just skip over Thanksgiving and go right to Christmas after Halloween. But I just love Thanksgiving so much. Like I really don't like celebrating anything Christmas till the day after, because I really don't want to miss what it's all about and being grateful and thankful for my life, for my family, for everything that I get to be a part of. And so I don't want to skip past that. I give it time. So even if there is lights involved, Christmas music, Christmas movies, I'll be listening and watching those on Friday.
I understand. I used to be in that boat, but then I just decided, I don't have to be thankful just one month of the year. I can be thankful every month.
Day.
Subtle Christian juke.
So what we got? Question of the week.
Jesus
what is
juke.
it?
What's your favorite Thanksgiving side?
Favorite?
We did this like 2 years ago when we had this episode. I forgot even what
I don't know
yours.
what I put. I think I remember what I put because it's always going to be my favorite side, because it's kind of like a side, but I still think it's almost like dessert as well. But sweet potato casserole. Oh my gosh, it is so good.
With marshmallow on top?
Oh, a little marshmallow, a little pecan on top. Oh, it is like the
pecans.
best thing. Like it's the one thing I get seconds on, even though sometimes I never skip dessert either, because I love some pecan pie, pumpkin pie. I love it all. But I will get a second helping of sweet potato casserole every single time because it is just delicious. My favorite side.
I love.
Didn't we do it like a competition?
We did.
Back then we were in the podcast, we were doing like top 5 sides we would pick, and then we'd have people vote
draft,
and who won and all that stuff. I mean, I just now remember that.
Oh yeah. I just love Thanksgiving.
So what's yours?
I love eating all day long. I don't actually like meal. I don't like a meal, like sit down and have a whole meal. I like to just snack all day. That's preferably. But honestly, my favorite Thanksgiving side is a big argument within my in-laws. It's not really an argument within the in-laws, because I'm going to side on my mother-in-law in this conversation, regardless of how I actually feel, because she says it's a side. Her brand new son-in-law thinks that it's a dessert. I'm going to side with my mother-in-law. It's a side. And it is a pumpkin crunch, I think is what they call it. And it is amazing. It does involve yellow cake in the ingredients. So I don't know what you do with that, but it's a side.
It's a dessert.
Because I love my mother-in-law and I like being on her side for this. So
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Amazing.
And it's a dessert. And I'm the dessert king. I'm calling it a dessert.
I don't have a dog in this fight. I am backing up slowly. Shout out to Jenny. It's a side.
Okay.
But that is my favorite thing about Thanksgiving. And I didn't know that until I got married. So my in-laws
What's your favorite thing about Thanksgiving? Just eating sides all day long?
No, I have.
You mean your favorite side?
My favorite side.
Okay.
Thanksgiving. Let's talk about my Thanksgiving. Because I change every year. I go to Detroit or I stay home. Mm-hmm. It either starts, depending on where I am. If I'm in Detroit, it starts with a football game with my brothers, which I love, or a workout, or both at my brother's gym. when I'm here, it starts with a basketball game, which, welcome to Indiana. Then we go and we have appetizers and lunch starting around noon. And guess what? The Lions always play at noon. So I am enjoying Lions football until about 3:34. Then we usually have dinner right after Lions football on both sides of the family, thank God. And then we just chill and hang out and have conversation. And it is like the best day for me. So
I love it as well. All right, well, we're going to get right into this episode, but just a reminder, we are going through the Beatitudes, the sayings of Jesus found in Matthew chapter 5. We're going over them individually, 2 a week. And just a reminder, and last week, we brought up this idea, or I did anyway, that seems very odd in this, how every phrase and every Beatitude starts with that someone is blessed, or we hear blessed. And they're spelled the same way. Why do we say blessed? I don't know if this is fully accurate or not, but I did look up on the internet, did a quick Google search
so
just now, and they said that blessed, ed, when we say just blessed, it is a past participle. That's how you say it. But if you actually separate them out and say blessed, it means and speaks to an adjective. And so
okay, I have a lot of degrees, and I still have no idea what that means.
I don't know either, but I think last week after the episode, you're like, wait, even though you brought that up, you said blessed and blessed for the same sentence. And I might do that again this week. We'll see. I'm just going to keep it as blessed, because if it does speak to an adjective, I do want that to describe who I am in my identity.
Do you think it's Old English, like King James? What's the thou and
yeah, something else I ran, one of the other links talked about how it was some type of poetic English, and that's why I
get behind that.
Say
I like that better.
It like that. But remember, this idea of blessed is the Greek word makarios, which was a specific place. It was the island of Cyprus, where everything you needed was there. So blessed is a statement of a place or reality where one lives in total completeness. In other words, it's not something that you will be someday. It's something you are, right? It's sustainability, what it speaks to. All of the things that Jesus mentions, it already belongs to you. So when you know that you're blessed, you are aware of the already present kingdom of God living in you.
Yep, for sure. So let's talk with part 3. The first Beatitude in this one is from verse 7. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. And this is probably my favorite tattoo, because this conversation of mercy, I think, is the most provocative within the Beatitudes when you really think about it. I have a huge gavel on my forearm, because when we adopted our son, Henry, in 2020, and the judge said, I'm making a judgment in the favor of the Rice family, it just blew up judgment for me. I always was scared of judgment. Judgment can be a good thing. And honestly, when you look at the scriptures, even in James 2, it talks about that mercy triumphs over judgment, or in other words, mercy is God's judgment, which is so crazy when you think about it. We talked a lot about judgment on episode 63 in our cow tipping series, because a lot of times when you say that God's judgment is mercy, people will always say, yeah, but he is also just.
Right.
And we debunk that whole idea. Well, not really debunk, we explain it, so to speak. Because, in John 5:22, Jesus says that the Father judges no one, but has entrusted all judgment unto the Son. Jesus judges us on the cross, and he judges us as righteous, which is beautiful. And I know this kind of came up. We have a whole lot of teaching. I think I taught this in our sermon series, I Never Said That, Things Jesus Never Said. And I talk about the judgment, which you can go and check that out on our YouTube page. But the word justice and righteousness is the same Greek word, and it never gets translated as justice in the New Testament, which is kind of bizarre to think about, especially when you're thinking about God's justice and righteousness. But the reality is you're righteous. That's God's judgment, which is crazy. His judgment over you is mercy, love, empowerment. And we also talk about this on episode 119, about this idea that Christians will say, but aren't I supposed to judge other Christians? And we're glad you asked. Go check out that episode, because we unpack that a whole lot in great detail. But at the end of the day, when Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, he was also understanding that when you are merciful, you are actually showing God's judgment towards people.
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing, actually. And one of the things we want you to take away from this beatitude is that God's judgment is mercy. And when we bring up mercy, just a really cool side note that I really think will bring you a lot of peace and even freedom, to really dismantle or dismiss any fear that might be in your life about judgment. All we have to do is go to Matthew chapter 7, and it's a verse that actually brings a lot of fear in people.
Yeah.
And it's this idea in Matthew chapter 7, verse 13, where it talks about wide is the gate that leads to destruction, but narrow is the gate that leads to life, and few find it. And people use that verse to say, see, you're out there living crazy, wide is the gate. Everybody's on their way to hell. Only few people, will find. They think the gate there is Jesus. And if you just find Jesus, then that's the only way to life. But very few people find Jesus. But really, when you look at the context of that, now, Jesus is the way. He is the gate later on. He says that about himself. But in this context, the first 12 verses of Matthew chapter 7 are all about mercy. And so the narrow gate that leads to life is actually living a life showing mercy. So it's not this conversation about an afterlife, going to heaven or hell. It's actually how we live in the present reality. The narrow way is to show mercy, and it's narrow because that is not our norm. That is not the norm that we are taught. We are taught revenge. We're taught very what's the word? Not revenge, but really
Retributive.
Yeah, retribution. And really the way of Jesus is completely counter to that. And so that's why it's narrow and very few find it, because people don't want to act with mercy. They want to act with judgment.
Yeah. That's very provocative, because that's what we call eisegesis. There's a difference between exegesis and eisegesis and what we read into the text. And many people use that as a gospel presentation to scare the crap out of people into the arms of a loving God, talking about narrow and wide as heaven and hell. And it's not a conversation of afterlife. That's not the context. So that is actually like mind-blowing when you think about it, because God's judgment is mercy. And if it is mercy, then our job as Christians is to mimic the Father. So we should be showing mercy, or in other words, restoring value where there is no value. We've said that a lot on the podcast. God's justice looks like healing, not hell. His judgment is restorative, like you were saying, not retributive. The idea that there can be no justice without punishment is purely a human invention. Human justice involves punishment. True divine justice involves mercy. Yes, there is restoration and restitution, but not punishment, and especially not eternal punishment for an earthly life that was finite. God is love. Love never punishes, but only restores, heals, and forgives. So do you restore, heal, and forgive?
Yeah,
Very
and I love
thought-provoking.
that because, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. And when we attach this to judgment, right, there's another scripture that says how we judge and the way we judge others, we will ourselves be judged. And so then no wonder it talks about showing mercy, because when you show mercy, mercy is actually shown to you. And so I just think that's a beautiful way to really capture the heart of that beatitude.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
let's go on. Verse 8, the next beatitude is this: blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And I love this because to be pure in heart is to be clean, but this doesn't have to do with sin.
Yeah, this is mind-blowing.
Yeah, this has to do with a lack of pride, hypocrisy, and judgmentalism. So remember, the blessing of this beatitude is what? Seeing God. And so really, Jesus is who God has always been. So when we see what God is like and who God is like, which is Jesus, right? We actually get a glimpse of being able to see how he loved others. Mm-hmm. And so whenever we get a glimpse of how he loves others, we can understand we need to be that same way, pure in heart, right? To be removed, or to remove in our life pride, hypocrisy, and judgmentalism, so that we can actually love people properly.
Yeah. Yeah, to not see God is to be blind, right? And I think that's very interesting when you look at the life of Jesus, when he was constantly challenging the Pharisees. I think over 5 times he calls the Pharisees blind. He uses this word to describe these people in religion. What were they doing? They were having spiritual pride of their hypocrisy, and they were judgmental towards other people and how they live. So I love how this beatitude was a literal confrontation to his audience, but also, hey, the pure in heart is not necessarily how you act. It's not talking about being a good person. It's about being able to see people in spite of how they act.
Right.
Because then you see like God, which is you see just like Jesus, which Jesus confronted the blind Pharisees because they didn't see like God, which is like mind-blowing when you actually contemplate it. And
Yeah.
Jesus is actually quoting Psalm 24 when he says this. And the word heart in the Hebrew in Psalm 24 is the word lev, L-E-V, and it literally means the seat of the mind, or in other words, the seat of the thoughts. And so blessed are those who are pure in their thoughts, seeing people the way that Jesus sees
Yep.
people. Instead of seeing their shortcomings, we'll see like God at work in ordinary people.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I thought about this past week. We had Mikey preaching this past week here at Hill City in our sermon series, Navigating Minefields. And she went back to talk about like the creation story and how the original intent, God created everything and called it very good. But then she went to where, Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And what I kept thinking about is kind of like right in line with this, is that we were never supposed to have the knowledge of good and evil. We were only supposed to have this understanding of being known and being loved. And so whenever we have this idea of being pure in heart, it means you know that you're loved, and then you can get to a place when you know you're loved, you can see everyone else as that's where they are in the original intent and how God created them. You don't look at people and say, oh, they're good, or oh, no, they're bad. You look at people and say, oh, man, they are loved by God. And if they're loved by God, I can see how God sees them. I'm going to love them too.
Oh, I love that. I believe to be pure in heart is when we, as the church, live Acts 10:28. Remember, Peter gets this vision, and God shows up in the vision and tells him to call nothing impure or unclean. And we've kind of challenged our church, hey, let's be a group of people that calls no one impure or unclean. And that's a provocative thought, but I think that first starts with calling yourself pure and clean. Do not even call yourself impure or unclean, because you are pure and clean in the sight of the Father. Therefore, when you know you're pure and clean, you can love other people and see them as pure and clean, even when they acting like crazy. And so I actually got a little tiny little heart to symbolize that, because I just love it. That one, to me, when I was studying that this past week, there were so many new things that I found out from it that were blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Especially the tie-in with the Pharisees and why Jesus constantly used the word blind. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, because they're not seeing God, because they're judging based on the book, which was, man, that was challenging.
Yeah, so maybe you should have waited on that heart till after this. You could have got a set of eyes, or eyes in the heart. No, that would have been stupid. But it goes with with what we're saying.
Maybe I'll go back and add to it.
No, it's all good. But no, we really appreciate you
like,
listening.
hey.
We hope that you've been blessed by these
Or blessed.
Yeah,
Blessed by these.
We hope you've been blessed with these podcasts, as we're just simply going through the Beatitudes, the words of Jesus, trying to bring some understanding in how we can live these out today. And we really believe, and I believe, that as you live these out, your life truly begins to change whenever you see people the way that God sees them. When you see yourself in a proper view, in a proper light, I think it's amazing. And honestly, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. We want you to have the absolute best Thanksgiving with your family, with your friends, however you celebrate that. I want you, even if you don't think you have something, I promise you there are things in your life to be grateful for. And so my challenge as we close this podcast is to find something that you are grateful for. And it might be not like huge, big, this over-the-top, crazy, amazing thing that you're thankful for. Maybe you're thankful for life. Maybe you're thankful for a side of gravy with those mashed potatoes tomorrow. I don't know. Find something.
Maybe you're thankful for technology so you can listen to us challenge you around being thankful.
Yeah. Hey, that is kind of crazy to think about. Talk about mind blown. But yeah, just think about something.
Yeah.
Like gravitate towards those thoughts this Thanksgiving, things to be grateful for. And we also, I want you to know that we're grateful for you. We're so thankful for you. You are going to help us hit 50,000 downloads. We're super thankful for that. What a milestone for us. But that is because you continue to listen each and every single week, and we're thankful for that. We don't take that for granted, and we want you to know how appreciative we are of you listening and just going on this journey with us. We're super appreciative of that.
For sure. Yeah. So be merciful and pure in heart with your family tomorrow. Offer mercy if the conversation goes a different direction, and see the best in people even while knowing the worst, especially your family members. And with that, just know you're loved, and there's nothing you can do about it.